Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Wednesday, January the 14th, 2026. It's Spathon with another episode of The Swamp. Today, President Trump signed the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act into law, which, among other things, will return whole milk to school cafeterias across America. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent drops a bombshell during an interview, claiming the Treasury Department's investigations into Somali fraud led them to evidence of Minneapolis's mayor Jacob Frey taking political favors in return for ending local fraud investigations. Democrats have confirmed that they are actively working to defund and abolish immigration and customs enforcement, therefore confirming that they are the party of rampant illegal immigration. ABC News has reported that for the first time in 50 years, the U.S. is now experiencing negative net migration as a result of the Trump administration's simple enforcement of federal immigration law. President Trump spoke with the interim vice president of Venezuela by phone, and he said the conversation was very productive and the outlook for Venezuela is looking brighter by the day. The State Department announced that the United States will pause any and all immigration from 75 different countries whose citizens extract welfare from our nation at unacceptable rates, and they will resume immigration from those countries once we are assured that they will not be a negative burden on our system. The 23-year-old YouTuber Nick Shirley posted a video where he investigated empty daycare centers in Minnesota, which gained over 130 million views within 48 hours on the X platform alone. And just a few hours ago, he dropped a part 2, and we'll have a look at it. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're gonna dive straight in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like if you get an extra second, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the daily updates. And if you leave a comment below, I might just read it on tomorrow's episode. And every article you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. And I'm going to start right here with Nick Shirley. After my last video exposing over $110 million in fraud, Tim Walz dropped his run for re-election, and multiple federal investigations were launched to stop fraud across the country. In this 51-minute video, David and I expose another $16 million in fraud as Minnesota welfare programs continue to operate fraudulently and steal from law-abiding taxpayers. Like it and share around everywhere. Accountability and the law must come for the fraudsters and corrupt politicians who have let this happen. The fraud must end. So, of course, I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm sure that's going to go beyond, the bounds of copywriting anyway, even if I tried to. He did just post this. I think it was at like 5 o'clock this afternoon. So it's, 5:35 p.m. So as of this recording, it's only been out for about 3 hours. But I figured I could play at least a minute of it. I'm sure I can. But as of right now, let me get ahead of it and repost it. There's a direct link to my profile, my X profile, in the description below. So this should be up near the top of my profile if you visit it sometime within 24 hours of this recording, because I don't post all that much. Or you can go straight to Nick Shirley with 2 Y's at the end. He also has a YouTube channel as well, and I'll make a note for myself to add a link to this same video on YouTube if you just want to make it easier for yourself and just check it out straight right here on YouTube. So anyway, let's give this a play.
I'm asking
No. You don't ask me nothing, man.
$2.25 million.
Get out. Are we the only community that does fraud?
How come they said this building was closed? Do you guys know where advanced mobility is? Advanced mobility? Yeah, we're looking for it. Never heard of it?
They know we're shining the light on the fraud, and they have no defense.
Would you like to see anybody in the government here held accountable?
Most definitely, because there can definitely
wouldn't that be nice?
Of funds.
The Minnesota
It's your tax
fraud
money they're
scandal
stealing.
Continues to get worse and worse.
Our
as
tax
billions
money.
of dollars of fraud has been exposed, and as I showed the world the blatant fraud taking place at daycares and other locations across Minnesota, it became the most viewed video expose on the internet and created instant change.
Absolutely
within the
wild,
government
man.
As the Fed sent thousands of federal agents to Minnesota,
It kind of went viral.
and the HHS froze over $185 million in all payments to childcare. And while politicians like Tim Walz call people like me white supremacist and far-right
Oh,
delusional
of course he did.
conspiracy theorists for
Tim Walz.
exposing the fraud,
What a piece of shit, man.
meanwhile, he actually dropped out of running for re-election.
Fucking scumbag.
The Minnesota fraud scandal has erupted the nation as protests and riots took place, all starting because daycares like Quality Leering Center were exposed. However,
The Democrats, they are the party of racism. They always have. Going all the way back to their KKK roots after they lost their slaves when the Republicans won the Civil War.
For you, exposing all the fraud from strange connections of the business owners and the politicians who have openly admitted to the fraud on live TV. And to dive deep into the fraud,
Of course they did.
I met back up with the local
They're just so
David,
brazen with it. They just think they can get away with murder, pretty much.
For years.
So here in Minnesota, you have daycare fraud, you have adult daycare fraud, you have healthcare fraud, and you even have more fraud. What's some of the fraud
All
that's
kinds of fraud
also
going
taking
on.
place here inside of Minnesota?
Well,
Fraud all
what I
over the
think
place in
might
Minnesota.
be sort of the heart of the beast here is this transportation fraud.
Government
What
fraud.
I mean by that is
I say the Democrats,
in
man. They're
Minnesota,
defrauding the people
we
also,
have
probably.
something called non-emergency medical transportation.
Okay, so I'm going to just pause that there. I don't want to get too into the weeds with it because, of course, this just dropped a few hours ago, so it's brand new. Hopefully I didn't show too much at that point. I think I went like about 2 minutes in, probably walking the razor's edge at that point. But anyway, like I said, I reposted it. I'll grab a link to the YouTube video if you want to just watch it right here on YouTube on Nick Shirley's channel. I'm sure he's already got it on there. And we'll just roll on to the next topic from Raw's Alerts. Breaking. It has now been 7 hours. Well, technically 8 hours as of this recording. And Verizon services still remain down nationwide with no resolution in sight. Despite the company saying it is working to fix the issue, the cause of the outage has not been disclosed. And I've got this latest Verizon outage information just in case you happen to have a Verizon cell phone, smartphone. As of January 15 of 2026, Verizon experienced a major nationwide wireless outage starting around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on January 14th, that would still be today, affecting voice, data, and cellular service. Many users saw SOS mode on phones with no calls or texts except 911 in some cases, or mobile internet. Yeah, that's kind of problematic that it's even in some cases it's disabling the ability to call 911. And so there's a few bullet points. Peak impact, over 1.5 million reports on down detector at one point, with spikes to 180,000 plus, highest in cities like New York City, Atlanta, Charlotte, Houston, Chicago, and others across the East Coast, Midwest, and scattered West Coast. The cause, it's not been officially disclosed. Engineers were actively working on it. Verizon statements acknowledged the issue. They apologized that teams were deployed to fix it quickly and appreciated patience. No exact timeline initially, but possible bill adjustments discussed for affected users. Just a quick stop. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it was, I don't know if it'd be a DDoS attack. I guess that's possible, but I think it might just be some hacking attack of some way, shape, or form. Cyber attack, that's what I was looking for. Most likely, I would say probably from maybe Iran, or it could be another from North Korea. I don't know, somewhere maybe coming out of the BRICS nation somewhere. Maybe that could have happened. But anyway, the latest updates after about 8+ hours, services began restoring in many areas by late evening, around 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern onward. Some reports indicate partial recovery with ongoing fixes and lingering issues in spots. See, the reason that I think it might be some cyber attack is because it's spotty all over the country. It's not a unified down system. If it was like a bug involved with an upgrade that they installed, I don't know why they wouldn't just come out with that immediately. And possibly, arguably, by maybe powering your phone off and turning it back on. I doubt that would actually fix the issue. Not if they did an upgrade, that wouldn't fix anything. But anyway, whatever. So current status, reports have dropped significantly down to tens of thousands, suggesting major resolution, but check down detector or Verizon's network status page for your area. Use Wi-Fi calling if you're still impacted. For real-time check, visit downdetector.com/status/Verizon or on verizon.com/support/check network status. I don't have Verizon, so that wouldn't affect me any if I went to the Verizon website, but I can at least check the Down Detector website and see what might pull up. Here, hold on. I didn't give the complete URL. Give me just one sec. Here we go. Put too many characters in that. All right, so user reports indicate problems at Verizon. So yeah, it peaked like crazy around 12:30. And yeah, so it looks like it's it's starting to dwindle downward. It's like they're repairing it. So who knows what it was. I guess in the coming hours, if not possibly days, we might eventually find out what happened. We might get a statement from Verizon. I doubt that they probably have something on here. Otherwise, the Grok AI bot would have already picked up on that, because I just asked it that question like 5 minutes before I started this recording. Verizon News, I'm assuming it might be on here, if anything. Verizon's team is on the ground actively working to fix today's service issue that is impacting some customers. We know this is a huge inconvenience, and our top priority is to get you back online and connected as fast as possible. We appreciate your patience while we work to resolve this issue. And that's about it. And I'm sure they're going to get inundated with pissed off people. It's been ratioed 2 to 1 already. Double the comments over likes. I'm unable to do any field work because there's no service at all, zero productivity, lost wages, no timeline estimate from your team on resolution. Yeah, I totally side with that person. I also heavily rely on the internet to do my daily duties when I'm working throughout the day. So yeah, that would be immensely problematic for me. But if it affects millions of people, at least in my personal situation, it'd be something that wouldn't be that problematic to me. But regardless, I would still have to make up my time. So that would be a massive inconvenience in the way that I probably would honestly probably have to work on a Saturday, which would really suck. So, but at least according to this graph, it's significantly down from where it was. I mean, what was that? 878,872. Yeah, I'm assuming that's just a confirmed reports from Down Detector, because on Grok's answer said something like 1.5 million people or reports on Down Detector. So all right, but anyway, we'll head on to the next thing from Cloud World. This brings up a pretty good point. Obama deported over 3 million people, including record highs in 2012, 2013. Now suddenly enforcing immigration law is a crisis because it's Trump? Same laws, different outrage. Figured I might as well throw that in because I came across that. Yeah, it was worth bringing up. Eric Daugherty from 46 minutes ago, breaking brutal failure for Tim Walz's high-stakes live address about ICE in Minnesota. You can't even hear what he's saying. There are two voices saying different things. Resign, Tim. You are not only criminally complicit, but grossly incompetent. So let's hear what this is all about.
Is raining down upon our communities.
What's happening in Minnesota?
2,000 to 3,000 armed agents of the federal government have been deployed to Minnesota.
Don't do justice to the level
Armed,
of chaos,
masked,
and disruption,
undertrained
and
ICE
trauma.
agents
The federal
are going door to door,
raining down upon our
ordering
communities.
people to point out
2,000 to
where their neighbors
3,000
of color
armed
live.
agents of the federal government.
They're pulling
have been
over
deployed to
people
Minnesota.
indiscriminately,
Armed,
including
masked,
U.S. citizens,
undertrained
and
ICE
demanding to
agents
see their papers.
are going door to door
And at grocery
ordering
stores, at
people
bus
to
stops,
point out
even at our
where their neighbors
schools.
of color live.
They're breaking windows.
This dude's just a walking disaster, man. Like everything he touches turns to shit. And yeah, the tech people, whoever the hell that he had working to get this video out, you'd think they would have at least replayed it before they released it. And hearing this overlap of his voice coming in twice, it sounds like it's like 10 seconds, but the voice overlaps like 10 seconds behind. I don't know, man. You'd think they would have listened to it and been like, we probably got to do a take 2 on this one. All right, so this is from Libs of TikTok. Wahid Alan Mohammed, an illegal from Afghanistan who was convicted of trying to kill his sister for being a bad Muslim girl, was just arrested by ICE in New York. Kathy Hochul was harboring and protecting him. Sure sounds like it, because isn't New York a sanctuary state? I think it is. So there you go. That's who they're protecting. That's who Democrats are protecting. It's absolutely insane. They've just, when it comes to every single cause these days, it's either an all or nothing approach. It's absolutely crazy. It's the same mentality as the outrage mob, the modern progressives. If you're not 100% with us on every single cause, every point of activism, you are completely against us. So if you're a modern progressive, but you don't believe in third-term abortions, well, then you're automatically out. You are completely out. We've completely disowned you. You can never come back. I mean, it's a cult. That's cult-like behavior. All right, so anyway, we're going to move on to the first main topic of tonight's episode. House Republicans posted this from 5 hours ago. President Trump has officially signed Congressman GT's Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act into law. And Congressman GT, of course, is Glenn GT Thompson, who proposed this bill, and President Trump just signed it a few hours ago. Very quiet start. No auto pin.
Okay, not bad.
All right, who gets the pen?
Not bad. It's signed by AutoPen. So you can never make a mistake. They made a lot of mistakes. Anyway, here it is. Thank you.
There you have it. Big
Thank
jug
you
of
all
whole
very
milk.
much. Yeah, that's great.
Good old-fashioned glass bottle.
I'm going to start drinking a lot of milk.
We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great. Here, hold that on for a little
Oh,
while.
I
We'll
love
give
me
it to
some
us
milk,
later,
man.
okay?
I've been drinking whole milk my whole life.
That's great.
That's all I drink. That's all I have drank. Always whole milk. And I mean, I know, like, genetically, you know, I'm one of that very small percentage who some people, like, when I was growing up, they called me a freak in nature because, like, back when I was a teenager into my 20s, I only weighed like 125 pounds. I'm 5'10". Now I'm in my 40s and I weigh 130 pounds. But yeah, man, I've been drinking whole milk the whole time. I mean, I don't drink it every single day, but I probably go through a gallon of milk a week and a half, probably. Probably go through probably about 3 gallons a month, I'd say. So, all right. So we're going to also read this from Rapid Response 47. Watch young boy explains to the president where milk comes from. This should be adorable.
My name is Jesse. I am 6 years old. I am 7 years old. I want to be an engineer when I grow up. I am a first grader. I also know where does milk come from.
Good job. Where does it come from?
So first farmers milk it, and then next they put it into a coal tank, and then they to take the germs out, they put it very hot, and then they put it back in the coal tank, and then they haul it to somewhere that is cold in a big refrigerator. My name is Jesse.
Very cool. Very adorable. First grader, wants to be an engineer. That is awesome. When I was his age, I wanted to be an engineer too, but I wanted to be a train engineer. I wanted to drive the trains, man. So, okay. So also from Rapid Response today, I'm delighted to sign the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act into law. It will ensure that millions of school-aged children will have access to high-quality milk as we make America healthy again.
Today, I'm delighted to sign the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act into law, which is a very important thing for our farmers, and I think maybe more important for our people, the people that drink milk.
Does the body good.
This is the first bill signing of the new year, and it will ensure that millions of school-aged children have access to high-quality milk as we make America healthy again. I want to thank Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, who's behind me, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Senators John Boozman and Mike Crapo, Roger Marshall, Peter Welch, as well as Representative G.T. Thompson and Tim Walberg, all great people. Also with us today is USDA National Nutrition Advisor Dr. Ben Carson, my friend for a long time. We went head to head, and it was not easy going head to head with Ben. He still looks good.
Well, they went head to head back in 2016. Ben Carson ran for president back then. I remember that.
And some of
Uh-oh. What's going on here? All right. Technical difficulties.
Dairy farmers and their children. They're going to be farmers for a long time, we hope. As it currently stands, schools participating in the National School Lunch Program are only able to offer students low or non-fat milk options. That was changed during the Obama administration, and a lot of people disagreed with it at the time. With this legislation, schools will finally be able to expand their offerings to include nutritious whole milk. It's actually a legal definition, whole milk. And it's whole with a W for those of you that have a problem. Most of the media will get that.
All right. So, yeah, hopefully I'm not going to have internet issues. I mean, my internet was a little spotty throughout the day. I don't have Verizon, though, so I don't think it's related to Verizon. So, and I've got a hard line. It's plugged directly into my router, or not my router, my modem. So whatever. So anyway, with regard to the milk, of course, there's different schools of thought on drinking milk. Whether if you drink it daily, is that too much, or once a week, is that fine? Plus, there's the argument of non-pasteurized milk versus highly pasteurized milk. A lot of people believe that it's too risky to drink non-pasteurized milk due to possible bacteria contamination and so on. I've never had non-pasteurized milk. I heard it tastes delicious, but haven't had it before, I know that there's kind of a life hack where you can go to pet supplies, different pet supply stores, and they sell non-pasteurized milk. I've read that on the internet somewhere. I would not not recommend that at all, because it's not held to the same standard as human grade food by any means. Although I have heard of people going to pet supply stores to buy their milk because it's non-pasteurized, or you can buy it non-pasteurized. So this is from HHS Rapid Response from Secretary Kennedy. It's a long quote, so we'll just hear him say it.
Science has never shown that whole milk harms children. Evidence increasingly shows the opposite. The panoply of nutrients in whole milk is critical to brain development and physical development in our children. Whole and 2% milk provide 13 essential ingredients critical for growth, development, immune system function, and overall health, including protein, calcium, vitamin D, and healthy fats. Yet since these milk options were removed more than a decade ago, school milk consumption and meal participation have declined dramatically. Today, between 68% and 94% of school-age boys and girls fail to meet recommended dairy intake, according to federal guidelines. When schools limit milk choices, the kids do not move to healthier substitutes. They move to caffeinated drinks, to sugar
Absolutely.
drinks,
That's what I was about to say.
And to
Also
sweet
juice.
beverages with little or no nutritional value and the potential to wreak havoc on metabolic health, which is driving the chronic disease epidemic in our country.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's unbelievable. That what did you say? 93% of our kids in America are not getting the adequate amount of dairy. Plus dairy, it makes your bones stronger, though, right? I believe that it's the calcium in it. At least that's what I believed when I grew up, that it's good for your bones, man. All right, Secretary Brooke Rollins, whole milk is back. The president has signed the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, bringing whole milk back into America's schools for the first time in decades. This is a huge win for kids' health and American dairy farmers. I think this might be the last one. And then I've got the whole video.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke Rollins alongside my great friend Bobby Kennedy, and we have the best news. President Trump just signed the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. And what that means is that whole milk is going back into schools for the first time in a long time, which, Bobby, we think making America healthy again, this is a huge step in the right direction.
Absolutely, Brooke. And 40 years ago, the scientific and medical communities mounted a war against saturated fats, including healthy meats, proteins, and, of course, milk. In 2012, milk became regulated in our schools, and the obesity rate climbed dramatically, and children were funneled into drinking more caffeinated drinks and energy drinks and sugar-heavy drinks, and that has hurt American health.
Gee, I wonder if the Department of Education was lobbied to do that.
At the beginning of January, are going to release dietary guidelines, and we're going to announce the end to the war against saturated fats, and we're going to bring back milk, which is a nutritious, wholesome food that every American who can drink it ought to be drinking.
Amen. So thank you, President Trump. Thank you to the amazing leadership on the Hill who got this done. And thank you, Bobby, to our dairy farmers. It's just a huge deal. So cheers.
Oh, yeah, man. I'd take a glass of milk over a glass of wine any day. All right, so I got the whole video here, and hopefully this point forward, if it takes an extra second or two for the videos to load, my apologies. After this episode's over, I'll just do a full restart of my computer. I'll probably unplug and replug in my modem and everything, just do a fresh restart. Probably should have done that before this episode started, but it really wasn't giving me that many problems earlier. All right, so anyway, the White House, President Trump participates in a signing ceremony January 14th, 2026. It's the video in its entirety. Of course, I'm not going to play this. I wouldn't put you through all that unless you really want to see it. But if you do, what I'll do is give you a repost if you want to check it out. Again, a link to my profile is in the description below, or you can go straight to at White House. And where do we got the timestamp? 6 hours ago. That was at 2:59 p.m. So if you want to check out the White House, they post all throughout the day. So as long as you got the time, 2:59 p.m., you can scroll right down to where it's at and watch it. 47 minutes, 15 seconds in its entirety. All right, so we're moving on to the next topic from Liz Collin, exclusive administrator of the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid and Deputy HHS Secretary on the ground in Minnesota for a fact-finding mission. While checking out suspected fraud in St. Paul, within minutes, they told me they were chased out of buildings flipped off, naturally, of course, because they're in Minnesota, and followed by vehicles. Quote, the mob mentality is stunning. Why don't you want me to take a look? End quote, Dr. Oz said. Much more on their visit coming later tonight. So they're going to be publishing their interview later on. Let me just double check and see where Liz Collins at. Senior reporter at Alpha News. So let me just take a quick look here. All right, so it's going to be at Alpha News. I'm assuming they're going to be posting it here. That was back January 9th. Okay, here it is. Exclusive. The mob mentality is stunning. Dr. Oz and HHS Secretary O'Neill discuss fraud in Minnesota. This is 13 minutes in its entirety. Again, I will repost that directly to my X profile if you want to check it out, or you can go to at Alpha News. I'm sure they also have a YouTube channel. I would look for it. I'm not familiar with Alpha News specifically, so I'm sure that they've got a YouTube channel where you can check out this interview also if you just don't happen to be on the X platform. I know a lot of people aren't. Okay, so let's go back because there was a follow-up, or well, not a follow-up, but this was reposted with another below. Let's see. So the bad guys don't stand a chance. And he's responding to HHS General Counsel Mike Stewart, who says, I know a lot about public corruption, prosecuting it, seeking justice for citizens, and holding powerful bad actors accountable. As a former U.S. attorney for the first time in state history, I held dirty Supreme Court justices accountable for bad acts, and as a result, helped restore public confidence to a critical court. I also brought historic Medicaid cases in the interest of program integrity. Accountability breeds public confidence. It was terrific meeting with the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota today. I look forward to working with him to accomplish two goals: public confidence in critical federal program funding and accountability. Never before in history has a former United States attorney served as general counsel for HHS, HHS OGC, Office of the General Counsel, and at HHS and at Secretary Kennedy will always prioritize the transparency and integrity of tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer funds to ensure public confidence in our critical investments and efforts. This is going to be on WV Metro News, West Virginia Metro News. And yeah, why not? I'll allow that for now. All right, so from Charleston, West Virginia, the investigation into the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals by the Office of the United States Attorney Mike Stewart is over. Stewart released a statement on Thursday and spoke with Metro News about the importance for the public to be able to move on with confidence in that court. It's an unusual thing for any federal agency to issue a statement of conclusion. It almost never happens, Stewart said to Metro News. In this particular case, I thought it was important to say to the people of West Virginia that you have confidence in the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. It's important that you have the confidence in it because it renders such important judgments on so many important issues that affect everybody in the state. In the statement released, Stewart said, our long-term investigation into corruption of West Virginia's highest court is now concluded. Absent new information or new allegations of impropriety or illegality based on the information we have investigated and reviewed, we're hopeful that the period of uncertainty and taint of West Virginia highest court is over. This does not mean there will not be another investigation regarding other issues at some point in the future, but for now we are finished with our work. So let's see. So as part of the investigation, former West Virginia Supreme Court Justice Alan Lowry will report to prison on April the 5th. He was sentenced to 24 months behind bars in order to pay restitution to the state of West Virginia and the Pound Civil Justice Institute. And back in October of 2018, he was convicted of 1 count of mail fraud, 7 counts of wire fraud, and 2 counts of lying to the FBI. He only got 2 years. Is that not a two-tier justice system? I think if it were you or me, just everyday regular person, 7 counts of wire fraud, that alone would probably carry like 20 years in prison. Stewart said he takes no personal pleasure in such investigations. Quote, I know sometimes it's hard for folks to understand that I'm not keeping track of my belt of the prosecutions that we have in this office. We have an important duty to serve the public and make sure the public understands that their government is honest. So, all right. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next post. That wasn't really related to the issue going on in Minnesota. But anyway, too late now. All right, Rapid Response 47. There are evidently some disturbing tapes of AG Ellison, Attorney General of Minnesota, in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the investigations, says Secretary Scott Bessent. I don't want to get out ahead of the investigation. When the bear trap snaps, we're going to get these folks. Okay, so just a full stop. I made a mistake during the opener of this video. I thought that was the mayor of Minneapolis. It's actually the attorney general. I mean, it's pretty easy to get them both confused because they're probably both just absolutely ripe with corruption. But yeah, that was my mistake. It's actually the attorney general for Minnesota, a much worse person to be in this position than Mayor Jacob Frey of Minnesota. So let's hear this from Secretary Scott Bessent, or Scott Bessent from the Treasury.
Following the money, there are evidently some disturbing tapes of AG Ellison in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the investigations. So we'll see. But again, I don't want to get out ahead of the investigations. It's going to be very methodical. And Chris, I can guarantee you, when the bear trap snaps, we're going to get these folks. And again, we're going to follow the money, whether it's over the two counties here, in Minneapolis, St. Paul's, or whether it's to East Africa. And there's tons of luxury properties, cars that have been bought over there. And how the hell did this happen? How did it happen? Like, President Trump is outraged. I'm outraged. The American people should be outraged.
Yeah, well, and we are outraged. And I can't help but imagine if those, what were the 80,000 IRS agents that were almost hired to be added to the IRS under the Biden administration. And I believe Trump put a stop to that. And yeah, I could only imagine if we had 80,000 additional IRS agents and, even allocating like 10,000 of them to go after the fraud, I think they would really have gotten to the bottom of a lot of it pretty quickly, because I'm sure the IRS would be a pretty powerful tool in the Treasury Department's toolbox with all these investigations. Dr. Oz, CMS update. It's worse than we thought. In October, we flagged $1.3 billion in Medicaid funds that 6 states may have unlawfully spent on healthcare for illegal immigrants. Since then, we've gathered more data, and the total has grown to over $1.8 billion across 8 states. It's against the law to spend federal Medicaid funds on non-emergency healthcare for illegals. If states use their own money to do it, there needs to be a clear paper trail proving that federal dollars didn't fund those services. These states failed to provide that for this $1.8 billion. So today, CMS is announcing that we're withholding nearly $300 million from California, which is by far the worst offender, until they demonstrate to our satisfaction that they're spending that money properly. Medicaid dollars belong to Americans, not illegal immigrants, and we won't stop until we've held rogue states accountable and recovered their misspent funds. More announcements to come. And at this point, California cannot afford this. Look, $300 million, it probably doesn't sound like a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of things when it comes to California, but California, for this coming fiscal year, they're going to be operating at an $18 billion deficit. And next year, it's projected to get up to $35 billion with their budget deficit. So they don't have the kind of money to be losing $300 million that's coming in for Medicaid. So this ain't going to be good for California. So I think this is probably going to back them into a corner and force them to have to produce everything they have. And of course, they're not going to have everything that they want to show, because I'm sure it's going to show that the system is rife with fraud in California. But I don't know, man. And Governor Gavin Newsom said that they were slashing all kinds of programs. Some of the programs that they're slashing to try to recoup the deficit on the budget is kind of surprising, including climate change programs, among other things. So that was kind of surprising to read that. Dr. Oz, CMS, buckle up for this one. Based on our initial set of audits, more than $1 billion of federal taxpayer dollars are being spent on funding Medicaid for illegal immigrants, and my team is getting it back. Let me just double check the date. If this was more than a few days ago, then I've probably already went over this. Oh man, this is way back on October 31st. So if you missed this, which I'm sure I covered this on the Swamp back then, I distinctly remember doing an episode on October 31st, and I'm sure this was included in it. But it's reposted on my profile if you want to take a look at that, since that's already been covered. He was just linking that, attaching that as part of, just a source to include with this update. And we'll roll on to the Attorney General, Pamela Bondi. Today, the Justice Department sued Minnesota for using affirmative action to hire for its state agencies. Uh-oh, that's a no-no. This is discriminatory DEI codified into bad state policy, and the Trump administration will not stand for it. So much for the Democrats being all about the Civil Rights Act. All right, so United States Department of Justice files lawsuit against Minnesota's affirmative action regime. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice from today. Quote, from suing over sanctuary city policies to a wide-ranging fraud investigation, today's lawsuit is the Department of Justice's latest effort to bring Minnesota to compliance with federal law, said AG Pam Bondi. Making hiring decisions based on immutable characteristics like race and sex is simple discrimination, and the Trump administration has no tolerance for such DEI policies. Let's go. And no, I'm not a robot. U.S. Department of Justice. U.S. Department of Justice files lawsuit against Minnesota's affirmative action regime. And it says the Justice Department Civil Rights Division filed a lawsuit today against the state of Minnesota, challenging Minnesota's requirement that all state agencies implement sex and race-based affirmative action plans and consider affirmative action goals on all staffing and personnel decisions. The state's affirmative action program directs agencies to engage in employment practices that balance the sex and race composition of its workforce with the civilian labor force. Yeah, that's illegal. From suing over sanctuary city policies to a wide-ranging fraud investigation, today's lawsuit is the Department of Justice's latest effort to bring Minnesota into compliance with federal law, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Okay, so we already read that. For far too long, courts have allowed employers to discriminate based on race and sex when it is packaged as affirmative action, said AG Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. The Supreme Court put an end to using race as a factor in college admissions through its Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard decision. This case is the next logical step. Title VII protects all people from race and sex discrimination in employment. There is no exception that allows discrimination against employees who aren't considered, quote-unquote, underrepresented. No, dude, it's called meritocracy. If you've got the merit, you got the job. Minnesotans already had to see their state officials like criminals brazenly walk off with over $1 billion taxpayer dollars, said U.S. Attorney Daniel N. Rosen for the District of Minnesota. Now they see those same officials abusing their power by systematically and unlawfully branding job seekers as the wrong race or sex. The United States Attorney General and the Justice Department are on the side of Minnesotans and have stepped in to hold the state accountable. A lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court for the District of Minnesota alleges this affirmative action mandate discriminates against, limits, and classifies employees and prospective employees on the basis of their race and sex in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which I thought Democrats were all about the Civil Rights Act. I mean, what did I miss? Did I get that wrong? Well, yeah, of course I got it wrong because it's actually not true. They've been racist. They've been discriminatory. They've been segregationists since the very beginning, man. They always have been, and they always will be. Because staffing is a zero-sum game, the complaint states, when Minnesota gives preference to employees or prospective employees on the basis of their race, color, national origin, and sex, it inevitably and necessarily discriminates against other employees or prospective employees because of their race, color, national origin, and sex. Yeah, duh. It's exactly what it does. And it also, it causes them to hire people who don't have the adequate skills for the job. No, we're going to hire you because you look a certain way or because you're a woman or whatever the case might be. While the U.S. Supreme Court previously sanctioned the consideration of race and sex in hiring for traditionally segregated job categories, the U.S. argues such outdated precedents are inconsistent with both the text of Title VII and subsequent Supreme Court case law. U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi certified this case as a matter of general public importance. This designation invokes a provision of Title VII that entitles the United States to expedited review by a 3-judge district court and direct appeal to the United States Supreme Court. I cannot believe that it even has to go up to the Supreme Court. I mean, this is textbook discrimination. It's absolutely unbelievable. And we'll go ahead and move on from here. And let's see what else we got. We got a lot on Minnesota. I mean, that's pretty much all that's been in the news lately. Whether if it's the fraud or if it's the ICE enforcement or if it's the agitators, the protesters, the rioters. All right, from House Republicans, the Democrats have surrendered to the pro-criminal, pro-illegal wing of their party. The number one House Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, between his lies about law enforcement officers, refuses to say if he will support Democrat legislation to abolish ICE. I thought I'd give that a click just because I assumed it was going to be delayed, but evidently it's not. Hopefully I'm done with that delayed nonsense with my internet. So let's give this a play.
He plans to introduce legislation to abolish ICE. How comfortable are you with members of your party pushing this?
Haven't had a conversation with the congressman
on
that particular piece of legislation, but our
it's probably his
position
fucking
has
idea.
been clear.
And Ilhan Omar.
That taxpayer dollars are being used by the Department of Homeland Security
to arrest illegals
and ICE to brutalize
wrong
American citizens and law-abiding American taxpayers.
No, it causes them to pepper spray obstructionists and rioters and unlawful protesting. When you block a street or you block the normal operation of federal agents, you get arrested for obstruction. So what did I say? Why do the Democrats want to abolish immigration law enforcement? Because they want America to become just like Germany, France, the UK, etc. A mass immigrated series of Western hellholes. All right, so I got one more from the Democrats. RNC Research deranged. Democrat Rep. Nadia Velazquez grossly smears DHS and says deporting criminal illegals is a war against American citizens and a weapon of political revenge. Democrats are responsible for the 1,300% increase in attacks on ICE agents.
And in our own streets of America, he's launched war against American citizens.
Wrong.
Let's get straight to the point.
They're obstructionists.
We are here today because the Department of Homeland Security has been turned into a weapon of political revenge.
That's a conclusion. Give us evidence. Give us evidence, not your opinion.
This agency thinks it's above the law.
Again, conclusion, no evidence.
The Constitution like a suggestion, and our communities
point
like
to
a
it.
battlefield. And
All right. Anyway, I would have loved to have heard more on that, but that's all RNC Research decided to post, and I only have a certain amount of time to prepare everything. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more on that. I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure the full interview. This might actually be from it's from the House. I can see the flag behind them. So I don't know if it's on a daily basis or if it's on a weekly basis. I know at least on a weekly basis, House Democrats they give a press conference, which I'm assuming that this was a part of. All right, so Rep. Mark Harris, the Democrat Party wants to keep murderers, R-worders, criminals, and terrorists on your streets and in your community. Looks like I do have one more after all. House Republicans, insane. House Democrats just confirmed that they are the party of illegal aliens. They are working to defund and abolish ICE.
And so today, I am glad to announce that the Congressional Progressive Caucus has adopted an official position to hold ICE accountable. Our caucus members will oppose all funding for immigration enforcement in any appropriation bills until meaningful reforms are enacted to end militarized policing practices.
What reforms? They don't have any reforms. The reforms is don't ever touch any American citizens, regardless if they're obstructing you or assaulting you or threatening to kill you or attempting to or outright killing federal agents. No, you just stand down and let them just run roughshod all over your agency. Let the outrage mob rule supreme already. My God. All right, Trump, Marsha Blackburn. If Mayor Frey truly wants criminals, R-worders, and drug traffickers off the streets of Minneapolis, why would he tell the men and women of ICE working to arrest the worst of the worst to get the fuck out? His hypocrisy is astounding.
My position here is pretty straightforward, and that's this. If you commit a crime, if you commit fraud,
obstruction,
if you commit a carjacking
assaulting
or
ICE
murder,
officers,
you should be investigated, charged, prosecuted, held accountable, and yes, arrested and put in jail. That is my position if you commit a crime and you are a
why do you let illegals out of jail?
Streets of the city of Minneapolis.
Riddle me that
made
one,
us
Batman.
less safe.
All right, I don't know why the sound was off. It was on a delay. All right, let's go to the next one. I got another one. Actually, I think I got three. Yeah, I got another one from Mayor Jacob Frey. If Minneapolis Mayor Frey really cared about protecting Minnesotans from murderers, child abusers, R-words, and more, he'd start by honoring our immigration detainers. And this is from the official account from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Is that a lot of the people that ICE is picking up right now in our city are not a problem for Minneapolis.
You want to respond to that?
You know, it sounds like the mayor wants to work with ICE, and he, is appreciative of what we would do, but he's not doing that. We are going out up to the worst of the worst, and we've already highlighted what some of our worst of the worst have released. And there were rapists, murderers, like he said, that were re-released back into the community because of sanctuary policies. So that isn't working with ICE, and that's not putting the best interest of your constituents and your communities ahead of political ideology.
Yeah, absolutely isn't. Yeah, they're putting their party over country. They're putting their political ideology over the safety of American people. Of course, that's what they're doing. And as Democrats always do, at least over the last number of years, they lie, they cheat, they steal, they obstruct. All right, so got one more. Let me just double check. Okay, that was the one I just did. All right, so this one's from Homeland Security. Mayor Frey, tell that to the family and loved ones of Minnesotan Victoria Eileen Harwell, who was murdered by an illegal alien from Ecuador. Immediately following the crime, ICE placed a detainer for German Ligari Inga upon his arrest for criminal vehicular homicide. The Hennepin County Jail refused to honor the detainer, and he was released without notification to ICE. Langari was arrested again on an outstanding warrant for vehicular homicide by the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, and ICE played a detainer the same day. He was released without notification to ICE.
Are you familiar with Victoria Eileen Harwell?
Of course he is.
An Ecuadorian illegal immigrant in August of 2024, driving drunk, crashed head-on into Victoria Harwell, killing her. Her 14-year-old daughter survived, and her sister. ICE released her, local Hennepin County released her not once but twice, and didn't.
Wait, hold on. Was it the sheriffs or was it the police? Let me just take a quick look. Yeah, so the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. So technically, Mayor Jacob Frey, he doesn't have jurisdiction or he doesn't have authority over the sheriff's office. That's a county office, and that's not the Minneapolis Metropolitan Police. If it was the Minneapolis Police who were letting him go, then yeah, I would say he'd be directly responsible because the chief of police answers directly to the mayor. But I mean, look, I'm no expert on anything. Maybe the sheriff's office in Minnesota, maybe it's different from the state of Florida where I live, but I'm pretty sure that the sheriff's office doesn't answer directly to the mayor. I just wanted to put that out there.
Cooperate with ICE detainers.
Just to be fair.
Why not? Since you're in favor of removing them, cooperate with ICE. Whether you have this sanctuary policy that the DHS says it is, you call it a separation ordinance. Why not just cooperate and make it safer for everyone involved? The community, the officers, and even the migrants.
Well, I can't tell the sheriff's office what to do.
My position here is pretty straightforward, and that's this. If you commit a crime, if you commit
so we already
fraud,
heard this.
If you commit a carjacking or a murder, you should be investigated, charged, prosecuted, held accountable, and yes, arrested and put in jail. That is my position.
Again, what about
if you
assaulting
commit
officers?
a crime and you are a problem on the streets of the city of Minneapolis that has made us less safe. What I am saying is that a lot of the people that ICE is picking up right now in our city are not a problem for Minneapolis.
Okay, we already heard that.
I hope that people throughout the country can understand that, we got to be thinking about other people as if it were ourselves. What would we do in these situations?
They're here illegally, asshole.
And,
they're a net burden on our system.
We care deeply
Not
about
all of
our
them,
immigrant
but a lot of them are.
population. We care deeply about everybody in our city. And what we're seeing right now is the kind of chaos that is being caused by this massive influx of ICE agents isn't helpful.
No. What's causing all the chaos is the mass influx of violent rioters that are descending on ICE agents who are just conducting their daily duties, enforcing federal law. And if you got a problem with it, then change the federal law. That's the way you got to do it. You got to go through the process. All right, this is from Homeland Security. Without cooperation from local Minnesota authorities, ICE arrested criminally illegal alien German Langari Inga. He's been evading prosecution for vehicular homicide in the death of Minnesota mom Victoria Eileen Harwell. Governor Walz should be thanking ICE, not demonizing them. Yeah, but of course they are. I don't even think they even really recognized her at all, did he? I mean, they certainly won't give them, a second's thought, all these victims of these criminals, because like the ICE officials have said that, or Todd Lyons, he said that they're going after the worst of the worst right now. And they are posting regularly, not only I'm sure on the X platform, but I'm sure they're posting it on their websites, wherever it is that they're present on the internet. They're posting all these mugshots of all these people that they're arresting on a daily basis. All right, so this is from Tom Homan. Rapid Response 47 posted this, and he is the border czar. explains how the ICE surge in Minneapolis is entirely self-inflicted. In places that aren't sanctuary cities, one agent can walk into a jail and arrest one criminal alien, but when you release them into the community, we need to send a whole team because we gotta arrest somebody on their turf with access to who knows what weapons. Absolutely. And that's the point. That's exactly what Democrats want. They want the chaos in the streets because they want the progressives, they want the activists, they want the people with the cameras there, because if shit pops off and things get crazy, they can film it and then they can spin the narrative and make it appear as though ICE is causing all the chaos when it is indeed the rioters, the protesters. They're the ones that are causing all the chaos.
It's promised to American people, we're going to find these criminals and make America safe again. So if they don't let us in a jail, we're going to go in the community. And the difference is, in places that's not a sanctuary, one agent can walk into a jail and arrest one criminal illegal alien. But when you release them in the community, now we got to send the whole team because we got to arrest somebody on their turf. They have access who knows what weapons. It makes it dangerous for the officer, makes it dangerous for the alien, and certainly makes it dangerous for the community. So if Minneapolis wants to help, like I saw Mayor Frey doing an interview this morning, let us in your damn jail. What's the downside of letting a federal law enforcement officer with the immigration authority talk to an illegal alien that you already locked up and put in a jail cell?
It's political propaganda. That's what, because they want the chaos in the streets. That's what they want. They want the chaos in the streets and they want to film it, because if ICE went into the jail and arrested the illegal alien, then nobody would even know about it. The news isn't inside the jail. So they're not going to be able to spin anything. It would be as if it didn't even happen because it would be behind the scenes. They would quietly go into jail where he's already in custody, has no weapons. They put handcuffs back on him while he's in a jail cell, and they walk him out into the ICE vehicle, and off they go. Simple as that.
It's ridiculous that they're pushing back on that. President
Well,
Trump,
and what I find kind of hilarious is that the left, or not the left, but probably the left as well, but Democrats, they want to censure and attempt to remove Secretary Kristi Noem from her position as Secretary of Homeland Security. In my opinion, is that if they do that, they're probably going to get Tom Homan himself to replace her, which, I mean, look, I don't know a lot about Tom Homan, but I bet he would be probably even more stern than Kristi Noem. Not to say Kristi Noem's going soft on immigration or anything like that. She's definitely, doing her job. I just think that would just be kind of hilarious, though, that if they were to replace Secretary Noem with anybody, it probably would be Tom Homan. Is that really who Democrats want? I don't know. Probably not. All right, so this is from Nick Sordor, LMFAO. DHS agents just listened to some middle-aged white liberal woman rant and then responded to her with, "Thank you for calling the ICE hotline. Please call again," which sent her into a shrieking rage. I could watch these all day. And I haven't seen this yet, but I'm sure it's very entertaining.
Tell me your name. This is unacceptable. Okay. Absolutely unacceptable.
All right, Karen.
You are
okay, Mom.
You should all be ashamed of yourselves. This is not appropriate. This is my country. I'm here legally. Okay. These people, you never.
Yeah, well, it's our country too, lady.
You are a bad.
And the majority voted for Trump.
Person.
And that was the number one thing he ran on.
Be expunged. You need to go to another country. You need to know what it looks like. Instead, you're pulling over innocent people, not asking for any ID and just hauling them off. You all should be ashamed. How do you go home to children, to friends, to family? Do you tell them what you do for a living? That you arrest people without cause? That you just pick them up, put them in a truck? Is that what you do? Are you proud of yourself for doing this? Are you absolutely proud?
Thank you for calling the ICE
hotline for us. Are you proud of this? Are you proud? You are an idiot. You do not deserve to walk the face of this earth. None of you.
Thank you for calling the ICE hotline.
You are fools. I did get a name. They took somebody out of that car. And they're...
God, these people are deranged. I mean, yeah, they really think that they have authority as U.S. citizens, that if agents are arresting someone, that I think they truly believe that they're justified to physically intervene. And I mean, these people have just lost their ever-loving minds. And, how do you roll back from this? I don't think you can. I mean, these people are cooked. All right, so this is from J.D. Vance, the vice president. While much of the left has lied about this case, it turns out ramming a law enforcement officer with a car causes injuries. Who knew? And this is from CBS News. Breaking: the ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Good on January 7th in Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to 2 U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. So the lady who drove her car at the agent, which led him to take out his weapon and fire it, killing her, actually turns out he was hit by her car, and he suffered internal bleeding as a result to his torso. And I do have one more post regarding this from none other than Asmongold, which he goes by Zach on here. But if you're, almost terminally on YouTube like me, you probably have heard of Asmongold. And he actually responded to J.D. Vance's post. I don't know if he actually responded to CBS News, but Vice President J.D. Vance actually reposted this to his account. And he says, wow, it's almost as if the thing that obviously happened because it was recorded from multiple angles and analyzed by the whole world on a frame-by-frame basis actually happened. Amazing. Looking forward to seeing the next goalpost shift. And that earned almost 2 million views. Good grief. Yeah, he's got a pretty big presence, not only on the X platform, but also on YouTube. And we'll move on to Speaker Mike Johnson. Now is not the time to play dangerous political games with national security and public safety, but that's exactly what Democrats are doing by attacking ICE for simply enforcing the laws on the books. The literal job of Immigration and Customs Enforcement is to arrest criminals, including those who should have been stopped at the border and never let into our country. After 4 years of Democrat open borders and soaring crime, law and order is what the American people demanded, and that's what we're delivering.
This is no time to be playing games with national security and public safety, and that's what Democrats are doing, beating the drums up here. Remember what ICE stands for. It's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They are enforcing the law. They are apprehending the dangerous criminals who were allowed into our country because Joe Biden kept the border wide open for 4 years. An estimated more than 20 million people came in. Many of them are a great danger to our community. A lot of them have collected in cities like Minneapolis.
ICE people are lunatics.
These sanctuary cities, they're all there. And so,
and look, if I'm assuming this is Immigration and Customs Enforcement or Border Patrol, national security agents, what have you, whatever agency that they're from. This person claims to be with the press. He's probably just a leftist in disguise, really. But if ICE agents are, if they're attempting to drive this way through the street, but they're blocking the street, every single one of these people need to be arrested for obstruction. Just pure, plain, and
ICE
simple.
has to go and do its job. There's a lot of spin on the Democrat side. They're assaulting our law enforcement officers, and they're breaking the law. They need to get out of the way and allow federal law enforcement to do its duty.
No, they need to be arresting them is what they need to be doing.
This is no time.
I mean, I've only said that about 1 billion times at this point. All right, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, another one from them. Organizing to impede, obstruct, or attack law enforcement is a criminal act. ICE and the FBI are currently investigating multiple organized groups and their members. They'll be held accountable for their crimes.
What do you make of these groups that have instructions on how to confront and basically fight with ICE agents? They call it a micro-antifada, and I can go into all the details of it. I'm sure you're closely aware of it. But we're talking about a strategy laid out by groups of people.
That's Todd Lyons,
to
right?
make
I believe
your
it is.
jobs harder and obstruct
director
justice.
Of ICE.
Should those people be arrested?
100%, Sean. Any law enforcement officer will tell you, it's a constitutional right, go out there and protest. But when you have organized criminal gangs, which these are, that are organizing these groups to, again, impede or obstruct law enforcement operations, lawful law enforcement agents, enacting the laws that Congress has written, that's a criminal act. And I will tell you that Homeland Security investigations, my folks, the FBI,
at the end of the day, they're political gangs, really.
People can be held accountable because you can't organize groups to go out and impede law enforcement. It's a criminal act, and we have to act swiftly to cause this from spreading.
Well, it'd sure be nice if you started arresting them. I mean, look, they'll arrest one here, they'll arrest one there, but it looks to me like every time they arrest somebody, it's because they're assaulting ICE or the rioter, agitator, put hands on an ICE agent, and then they get arrested in that instance. But they got to start arresting these people for obstruction. I still don't understand why they don't. Now, will they really get anywhere once they get in front of a judge? Will the judge just let them go? Probably. I mean, that wouldn't be of any surprise to anyone. Okay, this is from Homeland Security. Why are DHS law enforcement surging to sanctuary cities? Because sanctuary jurisdictions won't let us in their jails to arrest the violent criminal illegal aliens in their custody. As a result, DHS officers are forced to find the released criminal illegal aliens on the street without the support of local law enforcement. Local law enforcement cannot respond to calls for backup when our officers are attacked, assaulted, or obstructed. Sanctuary politicians are fighting for criminal illegal aliens. President Trump and Secretary Noem are fighting for the victims of illegal alien crime. And you hear Democrat politicians claiming that places like Texas and Florida and other red states, that ICE aren't even there. They're not even in those states. Their illegal aliens are not being bothered in those states. They're only coming after those in the blue states. And of course, that can't be further from the truth. ICE is in all 50 states, and they're conducting raids in places like Florida, where they just finished the largest statewide raid in the history of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, where they rounded up over 10,000 illegal immigrants in the state of Florida, which just concluded, I think, just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so anyway, let's give this a watch.
I think the American people should know, when we talk about our sanctuary city, what are we talking about? First and foremost, their state and local law enforcement are not allowed to engage with our law enforcement when our law enforcement is being assaulted, impeded, or obstructed. They're not allowed to answer calls for backup. That's why we see those growing violent crowds around our law enforcement as they try to enforce operations on the ground. But it also means, and this is so important, that our law enforcement officers are not allowed into the jails in Minneapolis. So we have murderers, we have rapists, we have child pedophiles. I mean, Dana, just look at this. An individual who was charged and convicted for murder of his 3-month-old son from Guatemala. That's one of the guys we've picked up. Known and suspected terrorists. An individual who was convicted of perpetuating human slavery. Those are the individuals who have been in these jails in Minneapolis. 470 of them. And yet Tim Walz has released them back onto the streets of Minneapolis to re-perpetuate the crimes. That's why we have to be out there in full force to make sure we're finding these individuals and we are apprehending them so they don't terrorize more Americans and make for more victims.
Well, look, I guess Immigration and Customs Enforcement, maybe they should be posted right outside of any and all jails that they have in Minneapolis. Just have them standing outside, and every time who they suspect to be an illegal immigrant leaves the jail, then detain them and find out if they're an illegal immigrant or not. Maybe they're already doing that. They might be doing that already. And if they haven't and they plan to do that, wouldn't surprise me if the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey instructs the police department to have unmarked police vehicles stationed inside or parked inside the jail. So when the illegal immigrants get out of jail, they put them into a police car and they take them home. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Honestly, they're probably doing that already. That's how far they're going out of their way to just keep up with this fucking shit. It's just beyond frustrating. All right, so the White House, mass deportations equals lowering housing costs. In 14 of the top 20 cities with the largest illegal migrant populations, home list prices dropped year over year in December. The only 3 seeing slight increases, all sanctuary cities. Mass deportations impact on median home prices. And we got a list of a number of different cities. Top 20 metro areas by illegal migrant population. Number 1 being in Austin. Change in median list price year over year. I mean, in Austin, it's gone down 7%. That's a huge drop year over year. Of course, San Diego, and I mean, you could read the rest of them. Washington, D.C., Miami. Don't see my city. I live in the Tampa Bay area, so it would be Tampa that would be on here, but it's not on here. So, but yeah, here you go at the bottom. Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and yeah, increasing. So there you go. And I got one more related to this. Rapid response. Mass deportations equals lower housing costs. Mass deportations equals higher wages, equals more jobs, equals lower crime. Mass deportations are improving Americans' quality of life. And they've got the thread emoji there, which means that they've got more down here. And I just went over that one. Did I actually miss this at the end? Overall home prices have dropped for the first time in more than 2 years as a housing affordability shows signs of improvement under the Trump administration. Very, very slowly but surely. Hopefully things will get better. Not sure if they will anytime soon, but that's for a whole nother discussion. All right, so this one, mass deportations equals higher wages. American truckers and construction workers, both industries with high numbers of foreign-born workers, have reported large increases in pay as blue-collar wages grow at the fastest clip in decades. Overall, real wages for American workers are on track to rise 4.2% in President Trump's first full year. And the next one, mass deportations equals more jobs. Between January and December of 2025, 2 million native-born Americans have gained employment, while 662,000 foreign-born workers have lost employment. 1.8 million native-born Americans have joined the labor force, while 881,000 foreign-born workers have left the labor force. Mass deportations equals lower crime. The nation experienced the largest single-year drop in murders on record last year, alongside steep declines in Rs, robberies, aggravated assaults, shooting deaths, the fewest since 2015, on-duty law enforcement officer deaths, traffic fatalities, and overdose deaths. The results are especially pronounced in Democrat-run jurisdictions where the Trump administration conducted mass deportation and enhanced law enforcement operations, such as Washington, D.C. Since Trump's crackdown began, murders dropped 60%, carjackings dropped 68%, overall crime fell by nearly a third compared to the year prior. And in Chicago last year, the city recorded the fewest murders since 1965. Holy shit. With shootings down by more than a third. In Memphis, the city recorded fewer than 200 murders last year for the first time since 2019, with shootings dropping nearly 40% from the previous year. And in New Orleans last year, the homicide rate fell to its lowest level in nearly 50 years. Yeah, it's almost as if Trump's law enforcement ideas and his practices are actually working out, because these are the only 4 cities that I know of where they've got ongoing federal law enforcement going after just crime occurring throughout the city. And yeah, those 4 locations, it's absolutely working. And I bet if you ask everyday people that live in those cities, I bet they're especially happy to see it, especially the law-abiding citizens. All right, so Rapid responds, mass deportations are improving Americans' quality of life. And probably basically everything that we just went over. Yeah, it is. So I will link that if you want to have a look at that on whitehouse.gov. And let's scooch on back to the main list. And from ICE, once again, Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, ICE is enforcing laws passed by Congress. You should be more concerned about the criminal illegal aliens being released into your communities because of sanctuary policies rather than our lawful operations. Yeah, you'd think they would be worried about that, but nope, I don't think they are.
Do you have a response to
At least the officials aren't.
Philadelphia's DA threatening to prosecute ICE agents, which, by the way, is not constitutional, but putting that aside, do you have a response for that DA?
You know, Sean, what I'll say is the men and women of ICE, the men and women of ERO, the men and women of HSI, they're not committing any crimes. So he doesn't have to worry about arresting any of my folks. Because
law.
What we're doing is we're enforcing the law. We are out there every day making this nation and his city safe again. So he shouldn't worry about the men and women of ICE. What he should worry about is the sanctuary policies that
and all these agitators.
These criminal aliens.
A lot of these people are criminals too.
Neighborhoods and commit heinous crimes like fentanyl trafficking, human trafficking, rape of a child. He should focus on those and let law enforcement do law enforcement work.
All right, Director Lyons, thank you.
Yep, damn straight he should. And this comes from Nick Sorter. Just in, literal busloads of illegals were just flown out of Minneapolis by DHS on a chartered Boeing 737, finally being sent back to where they came from. This is despite the rioting and obstruction done by the left. DHS is not slowing down. Keep pushing patriots. So here's a video of the flight. I don't know if they show people getting on the flight. Yeah, it actually does show people getting on. And off she goes. Leaving the country. Or good. Woo, that was kind of loud. Apologies. That's how planes are, man. They're loud. Leaving the country, never to return. Of course, unless another Democrat becomes president. Then you'll start seeing more caravans of convicted criminals sentenced to prison and insane asylums being emptied out, sent up into the United States like what happened under Biden. Man, they just got vehicle after vehicle rolling up. It's basically the polar opposite of what Biden was doing. Remember when he was allowing all of those flights to come in from all over the world under the cover of darkness, flying into our international airports across the country? They were full of illegal, well, I guess technically they wouldn't be considered illegal immigrants because the federal government was flying them in. And God knows how many they were flying in, probably surely probably hundreds of thousands of them, because they were flying them in on a nightly basis from all over the place, from Asia, from Africa, from everywhere. Okay, so let's roll on to the next. From Senate Republicans from 8 hours ago. For the first time in at least half a century, the U.S. saw negative net migration because President Trump has secured the border. In the working families tax cut, Republicans invested $46.5 billion in the border wall, as well as access roads, cameras, lights, sensors, and more to ensure safety for Americans. And this is from, again, ABC News. The U.S. experienced negative net migration in 2025 for the first time in at least half a century as a result of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, according to a report released Tuesday by the Brookings Institution. And you could read more at this link at abcnews.go.com. And I will have that below for you if you want to take a look at that. And what's the title? U.S. for the first time in 50 years experienced negative net migration in 2025, a report finds. And heading on to, oh, no, one more. Let's go back. There we go. From Rapid Response 47, looks like we're finally changing gears. Look, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Minnesota, the protesters, that's almost all that's being talked about these days. And I'm sure that's probably just going to keep going on because, that's all Democrats want to talk about because they just, they got the midterms to think of. So they're just going to try to gaslight and propagandize everybody into voting for them, because they caused the problem and then they claim they can fix the problem. I mean, that's what the policy of Democrats seems to have always been. All right, so Rapid Response 47, this is from President Trump's Truth Social account, and he says, "This morning I had a very good call with the interim president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. We are making tremendous progress as we help Venezuela stabilize and recover. Many topics were discussed, including oil, minerals, trade, and, of course, national security. This partnership between the United States of America and Venezuela will be a spectacular one for all. Venezuela will soon be great and prosperous again, perhaps more so than ever before." And let's hope that stands true, because once upon a time, they were the richest country in South America. Now they're by far the poorest. All right, so from Senate Republicans, it's great news that the interim Venezuelan regime is starting to release political prisoners. Thank you, President Trump. And this is from Senator Rick Scott. "Thank God and thank the president for the release of these political prisoners who have been held captive by Maduro's evil regime in Venezuela for too long. Every single prisoner still held under Delcy Rodriguez should be released ASAP." And this is the Associated Press from yesterday. "Breaking: multiple Americans who were detained in Venezuela have been released," the Trump administration said. And I actually missed this yesterday, but I mean, that's pretty common. There's only about like a million things that go on in the federal government on a daily basis. And of course, I can't catch everything. I can only catch what I come across. And this decides to load. "Multiple Americans detained in Venezuela have been released," the Trump administration says. Let me get rid of that. All right, so out of Washington, multiple Americans who were detained in Venezuela have been released, as the Trump administration said yesterday. Quote, "We welcome the release of detained Americans in Venezuela," the State Department said. "This is an important step in the right direction by the interim authorities." The State Department did not provide the exact numbers of those released, but a person familiar with the matter who spoke on condition of anonymity to describe non-public details said 4 Americans were released as a group Tuesday and 1 was quietly released on Monday. The releases come after the U.S. captured Venezuelan President Maduro. Of course, we know that. Head of Venezuela's National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, said last week that a significant number of Venezuelan and foreigners imprisoned in the country would be released as a gesture to seek peace following the military operation that deposed Maduro. As of Tuesday evening, the Venezuela human rights group Foro Penal had confirmed 56 prisoners it said were detained for political reasons had been freed. The group criticized the lack of government transparency over the releases. Venezuela's government negated the organization's count and reported a far higher figure of 400 Tuesday afternoon. But the government did not provide evidence of the releases or a time range in which they were carried out, nor did it identify those freed, making it impossible to determine whether those freed were behind bars for political or other reasons. Though Washington and Caracas have long had a fraught and limited relationship, prisoner releases have been a rare source of connection with the two countries in engaging in a series of swaps of detained citizens. In July, In July, Venezuela released 10 jailed U.S. citizens and permanent residents in exchange for getting home scores of migrants deported by the United States to El Salvador under the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Bloomberg News reported the releases. And let's head on to the next thing. Back. Senior official Jeremy Lewin, as Secretary Rubio has said, the Trump administration is committed to supporting the Cuban people, even if the corrupt, incompetent, and illegitimate regime will not. Working with the Catholic Church, we are proud to be able to deliver life-saving assistance directly to the people. If the regime gets out of the way, we are eager to provide more support in the coming days and months. And this is going to be on MiamiHerald.com. The Catholic Church to start delivering U.S. aid for victims of Hurricane Melissa in Cuba. So it wasn't just Jamaica who was hit by Hurricane Melissa, which, by the way, was a Category 5 when it hit Jamaica, but it also affected Cuba as well. And so Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Wednesday that the Catholic Church will start delivering U.S. aid directly to people affected by Hurricane Melissa in Cuba. Quote, today we are announcing the first in a series of direct humanitarian shipments to Cuba as part of a $3 million of disaster assistance committed by the Trump administration following Hurricane Melissa, Rubio said in a statement obtained by the Miami Herald. These shipments reflect our sustained commitment to the Cuban people as they continue to recover from the devastation. While the storm is past, humanitarian needs remain acute and recovery efforts are ongoing. Melissa ravaged eastern Cuba as a Category 3 hurricane in October. Thousands of people are without homes and destroying crops, telecommunications, electricity, and water pumping infrastructure. So, all right. Anyway, we'll move on to the next thing. Of course, as always, that'll be linked below if you want to take a look at the rest of that. And this was during Trump's statement that he was making, signing the Milk Act. And he says, we've been notified pretty strongly. We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping and there's no plan for executions.
Been notified and pretty strongly, but we'll find out what that all means. But we've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that on good authority. We'll find out about it. I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset, including you will be very upset. But that's just gotten to me, some information that the killing has stopped, that the executions have stopped. They're not going to have an execution, which a lot of people were talking about for the last couple of days. Today was going to be the day of execution. We have...
well, okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with the executions that he's talking about, but what I read on yesterday's episode that anywhere between 12 and 20,000, if not over 20,000 Iranians have been killed during the nationwide protests. And by the way, I finally fixed my internet. I hit the pause button, probably didn't notice that, but you know, my stupid modem was running at only 3 megabits per second, but now it's back to where it should be. All right, so House Foreign Affairs Committee Majority Chairman Rep. Brian Mast. If I bought a $1 bill, or if I took a dollar bill to an Iranian currency exchange, they would have to give me 1 million Iranian rials in return. Actually, I think it's closer to 1.3 million rials. The Iranian regime spent its money funding terrorism around the world, and now the Iranian people are rising up against Tehran.
U.S. is apparently evacuating personnel from some bases in the Middle Eastern region, including Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which was one of the targets following Operation Midnight Hammer. The Iranians weren't too effective at retaliation. But is this an indication that something may be about to happen, do you think?
It is an indication that the Iranians are taking it seriously, the words of the president, and they should be taking seriously the words of the president because he doesn't bluff. What he says he will do, he will do.
No, he doesn't.
And we should be backing up the Iranian people who are looking for a free and fair and democratic Iran instead of the dictatorial regime that they've been under for so many years. And maybe just to make a demonstrative statement on this, I firmly believe that
goes to show, be careful who you vote for.
Is something that is coming and
have devastating consequences.
Iran is in a situation of problems right now. The Ayatollah problems that they cannot get out of. They don't have ways out of the fact that if I brought a $1 bill to a currency exchange, they'd have to give me about 1.2 million Iranian rial back, or that they spend all their resources on terrorism and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you managed to hear it in the last few minutes. Part of the interview that Brett Baer will air tonight on Special Report with Abbas Araghchi, who is the foreign minister of Iran. But he was spinning this bizarre tale of how these aren't legitimate protests. They are terrorist-style attacks that are being fomented by Israel, and that it's the protesters who are killing the police as opposed to the police who are killing the protesters.
Yeah, of course they say that.
We see these scenes in Iran of protests like the likes of which we have not seen in 47 years. Does that give you a sense that the regime may be on a tipping point and given the right push could topple over?
This was yesterday, 100%. By the way.
You look at this, the protests are organic. They are revolutionary there. It is significant.
Well, dude, it has to be organic because they don't have the internet. They have a nationwide internet blackout.
That people in Iran are willing to raise their hand against the government to the point that several hundred government officials are dead in a country where people are scared to whisper bad about the government there. That is a significant thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
the
it
fact
sounds
that
like they're
the
done.
government there is doubling down to say we're going to become more brutal, more repressive, as they do weigh things like.
Oh, you know they will if they
think about letting
they
women
retain
drive
power
motorcycles or other things, but they're becoming more brutal and repressive with their tactics to put down this uprising, if you want to call it, this revolution. Yet they are in a very bad place. That again, I say demonstratively, I think regime change is at play here.
Wow, man, this is incredible. This is wild, man. First Venezuela, now Iran, maybe. Possibly Cuba might be coming up at some point. Not so sure if that's really going to happen, but it's certainly possible, maybe. And just to add a little more context to the currency exchange, 10 years ago, $1 US would exchange into 36,000 reals, and today it's about 1.3 million. And it's doubled over the last 11 months, 12 months. So yeah, I mean the currency in Iran is just spiraling completely out of control. All right, so State Department CT Bureau. The United States welcomes the support of the Arab Republic of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in recognizing the recent designation of certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations. We value our strategic counterterrorism partners with these nations. And so this is the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Counterterrorism, countering terrorism since 1972. And it looks like they've got a few posts. And looks like probably from the officials in the countries that they named. So yeah, that's what it appears to be. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia welcomes the classification by the United States of America of the branches of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon as terrorist organizations, and the kingdom affirms its condemnation of extremism and terrorism and its support for all that achieves the security of Arab countries, their stability and prosperity, and the security of the region and the world. And let's see what this next one is. The United Arab Emirates welcomes the American step to classify a number of branches of the Muslim Brotherhood group as terrorist organizations. And we've got the last one, probably from Egypt. That would be my best wild guess. Okay, so this goes to an article, but yeah, it is. It's from Egypt. Egypt welcomes U.S. designation of Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. And I will leave that down below for you. And we'll head to the Department of State. The State Department will pause immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. The freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure that new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. In other words, you got to have the merit. You have to have the skills to get yourself employed when you first get here. That's the way it should work. The pause impacts dozens of countries, including Somalia, Haiti, Iran, and Eritrea, whose immigrants often become public charges on the United States upon arrival. We are working to ensure the generosity of the American people will no longer be abused. The Trump administration will always put America first, and of course, Americans first. And what was the number in Minneapolis with Somalians? It's something like what, 80% or 85% of Somalians that are in Minneapolis are on some form of government welfare, if not all forms of government welfare. Many of them, if not the majority, have been on welfare since going back to like the freaking 90s. And they've not gotten off welfare. They've been getting free money, courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer, for decades, literally decades at this point. So I think we've had it, man. It's over. We're done. And a lot of Americans are really starting to warm up to the the thought that we should just get rid of all welfare programs, just outright get rid of all of them, except perhaps for senior citizens, which I strongly would support, and veterans and senior citizens, and anybody who has like a provable medical condition that would completely prevent them from doing any kind of work in any way, shape, or form. I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are in wheelchairs. There's wheelchair-bound people that work full-time. I mean, matter of fact, there's a lot of people in wheelchairs that are capable of driving a vehicle because, thanks to technology. I mean, we are in the 21st century after all. All right, so anyway, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, she has this to say. President Trump gave the order to secure the homeland, and ODNI's National Counterterrorism Center delivered. In 2025, intelligence shared by our team to federal, state, and local partners stopped more than 10,000 persons with connections to terrorism from accessing our country. Thousands of successful actions against cartels and gangs are driven by intelligence from the National Counterterrorism Center, whose integrated intelligence analysis and timely response to terrorist threats have directly led to the apprehension and removal of thousands of criminals from U.S. soil. Thanks to President Trump for his commitment to securing our nation, and thanks to the men and women of NCTC for their vigilance and dedication to keeping the American people safe. This is from Brooke Singman. Let's see. She is the Fox News digital political correspondent and reporter, and says U.S. intelligence officials prevented more than 10,000 individuals with ties to narco-terrorism from entering the country in 2025 and placed more than 85,000 similarly tied individuals on the terror watch list. And they have that article on foxnews.com. Let me see what it starts with, /politics/US blocks 10K. So that should be pretty easy to find down below. And heading on to the next thing, I believe it's related. Yeah, so, all right, so it's the same thing from foxnews.com. So I've already linked that. And from Pete Hegseth from the Department of War. Great work, AG Pam Bondi. Thank you for having the back of our war fighters. And Attorney General Pamela Bondi says, this past week, at the request of the Department of War, the Department of Justice and FBI executed a search warrant at the home of a Washington Post journalist who was obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from a Pentagon contractor. The leak is currently behind, or the leaker, the person who was doing the leaking, is currently behind bars, and I'm proud to work alongside Secretary Hegseth on this effort. The Trump administration will not tolerate illegal leaks of classified information that, when reported, pose a grave risk to our nation's national security and the brave men and women who are serving our country. Way to go, putting them behind bars. And yeah, man, just goes to show, you got to be extra careful who you're providing access to classified information to. I mean, contractors, private contractors, not sure if they should be getting classified information, but okay. I'm no expert on it, but all right. FBI Director Kash Patel from 3 hours ago. Another COVID fraud takedown. Casa Ruby claimed to provide housing services for homeless LGBTQ plus youth, including transitional housing. LGBTQ youth, including transitional housing, but instead stole almost $1 million of COVID relief money for personal use, and has now been sentenced to 33 months in prison in order to pay all the money back, $1 million. And once that individual gets out of prison and they get gainfully employed again, I'm sure they're going to be garnishing that paycheck until they either pay off the $1 million or till their last dying day. All right, so founder of Casa Ruby sentenced to 33 months in prison for diverting COVID-19 relief funds for personal use, which is going to be found on justice.gov. And that's the exact number, $956,215 to the Small Business Administration for diversion of COVID relief funds. Dude, there were so many people that did that. Thousands and tens of thousands of people who took advantage of the Small Business Administration loans, the PPP loans, and just remember all that COVID money that was just flying around all willy-nilly by the trillions of dollars, which really was the primary driver for all of the freaking inflation that we had to deal with. All right, so from Washington, Ruby Jade Corrado, age 56, the founder of Casa Ruby Incorporated, a Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit, quote-unquote, that provided services to the LGBTQ plus community, was sentenced today to 33 months in prison in connection with diverting at least $150,000 in taxpayer-backed emergency COVID relief funds to private offshore bank accounts for personal use, announced U.S. Attorney Janine Ferris-Bureau. Matter of fact, I think I've actually got a video of Judge Janine. Let me see if that's going to be the next one. I think it might be. Let me go back one more. And yeah, here we go. I believe that, is this the same? Oh, no. Okay, this is a different one. I'll get to that here in a minute. Corrado, a.k.a. Vladimir Orlando Artiga Corrado, pleaded guilty on July 17th of 2024 to wire fraud before U.S. District Judge Trevor N. McFadden. In addition to the 33-month prison term, Judge McFadden ordered Corrado to serve 2 years of supervised release and to pay $956,215 in restitution to the Small Business Administration. All right, so now we can get to Judge Janine from the U.S. Attorney in D.C., which was posted 4 hours ago. Yesterday, my office, in conjunction with ATF, the FBI, and the DEA, took one more criminal off the streets of Washington, D.C. D.C. rapper Trevor Wright, also known as Taliban Glizzy, was sentenced yesterday to 219 months in prison for his role in a string of jewelry store, they misspelled that, jewelry store thefts across the eastern seaboard that stole over $3.2 million from multiple businesses. And we've got the link. I'll repost I'll share the link in the description below, but we'll just watch the video instead, reading all that.
Hi, everyone. It's Judge Janine. Trevor Anthony Wright may not be a name that you're familiar with, but Taliban Glizzy may be. He's a D.C. rapper who has now been sentenced as a result of a prosecution by my office to 219 months in jail, which is a little over 18 years.
I was going to say, that's 18 years, by the way.
He was charged with robberies of various jewelry stores up and down the eastern seaboard from Florida to New Jersey. He and his crew would go into these jewelry stores with sledgehammers and guns and all kinds of things and break up cases.
Lucky they didn't get killed down here in Florida.
And he stole about $3.2 million in jewelry. So here's the good news. You don't have to worry about these kinds of robberies anymore, and you don't have to worry about Taliban Glizzy anymore, because he won't be around for a good 18 years.
Wow, man. Well, and plus, if you're in federal prison, don't you have to serve something like 75% or 80% of your sentence to be eligible for parole? I think it's a different standard on the federal level. Whereas on the state level, it's like, what, 55% of your sentence on good behavior, you could be released, something like that. I mean, I'm not a know-it-all when it comes to the federal and state prison system, but I think I'm relatively close on that at least. All right, so from the FBI, since 1935, the FBI's Law Enforcement Bulletin has highlighted the work and experiences of the FBI and our law enforcement partners. This month, learn how expanding technologies make communication and engagement easier and faster, but face-to-face interaction reaps broad benefits for agencies and communities. Read more at leb.fbi.gov. And this is the Law Enforcement Bulletin provided by FBI Training Division. I'm not familiar with this website, but it exists. It's out there. Law Enforcement Bulletin provided by the FBI. And it looks like it's just got latest news, and they got articles, spotlights, bulletin highlights, patch call, VI cap alerts. Let's see, missing persons, assault and Flagstaff. Oh man, this is like not new at all, dude. They are not updating this, at least not as of 2020 freaking 2. All right, not sure why they're not updating it. Well, it was kind of spotty, regardless back then. I don't know. This is my first time ever visiting this website, but the FBI, they posted it just today, just a few hours ago. So the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin connecting law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve since 1935. I didn't know the internet's been around that long, but apparently it has. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so U.S. Secret Service, 8 hours ago, when agents arrive at a crime scene, time matters. The Atlanta field office is now using a new mobile forensic truck that lets investigators analyze digital devices on site, helping move investigations forward faster and safer. Look at this thing, man. This thing is insane. You got this whole like fold out thing in this SUV, this giant flat screen. And I don't know, apparently there's a USB port in there somewhere where you could plug somebody's phone into it. And it just like, I guess it just downloads all of it, analyzes it all in real time. Sure, it's probably AI assisted at this point. And of course, they have an article for that as well. And moving on to the National Guard, welcome home. Nearly 200 Oregon Guard soldiers were formally welcomed home during a demobilization ceremony after completing a 9-month deployment to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula as part of a multinational force and observers mission. And we've got that at nationalguard.mil. And from the Department of War CTO, the future of warfare is now. Drone swarms and AI-enabled capabilities will be embedded into our entire fighting force. The Department of War will be AI first. And yeah, that's a problem that the military expects to be combating in the years to come, if they're not already. They call them drone swarms. So an enemy country can send just those little cheap, $100, $200 drones that you could probably buy on Amazon. Apparently the tactics that are being employed, I think this is happening in Russia and Ukraine with their warfare tactics, that they'll send out dozens, if not hundreds of drones all at once to overwhelm enemy forces. And, just in an attempt to, I'm sure a lot of them have payloads attached to them. I know they already do that in Ukraine, like kamikaze style. They'll fly drones just right at an enemy and it'll detonate on impact. So, we've already got tools and devices where we can point an object. I think it's concentrated microwave energy that they can point at a wide angle. It's at like a 30-degree angle. It can just point it up in the air and they hit a button and it drops every single drone within the vicinity to the ground. It's pretty incredible. I showed that video. It was probably about a month ago at this point, but I did show that video on the Swamp of them showing it in practice. But anyway, let's take a look at this. See what this is all about.
It's such a technological leap that, it's like going from the Wright brothers to space in 60 years.
Copy. Drone 1 set. Go drone 3.
God bless America.
Four drones are going to fly out about 4 kilometers. They're going to engage a 3-tank convoy.
So let's get the launch in front. So we were setting up the EFP, pack, and C4, making sure all the pre-flights were correct.
That's good.
Yeah, they are strapping payloads on them.
This technology is phenomenal. The leader drone will identify what needs to be hit, and then the 3 follower drones will then go in and attack.
3, 2, 1, pull.
9.
With the 3-to-1 concept, there's a leader drone as the brain, and then it's got its 3 followers that you can use as your munitions to send.
It's crazy, man. Freaking yikes. Wonder how much those blow-up tanks cost. Those air tanks. Can you buy those on Amazon? That'd be cool. Yeah, so that's happening. Just looks like we're another step closer to like Star Wars, the Clone Wars type shit, where it's just going to be machines versus machines out on the battlefield. Seems like we're getting closer. It's nuts, man. All right, from the U.S. Department of Energy, substituting boots on the ground for an energy deal. That's the genius of President Trump. And we got this video here.
All of our adversaries have been aiding a narco-terrorist state that's been exporting guns, crime, and immigrants to our country. So we've had a lot of problems with Venezuela for 20 years. And I'll tell you, back to your point about the oil, for the first time in 2 decades, no one is stealing Venezuelan oil. That's the genius of President Trump.
Well, the genius would be to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. But why is that America's job? And does that mean that American boots
the
should be on the ground
buddy.
there to protect Venezuela's oil fields?
It's all about that petro, baby.
No, there won't be American boots on the ground. We don't need American boots on the ground. But that oil has been being stolen by internal narco gangs that divert that oil, internal corruption in their state oil company. China's been buying it at way below market prices. Venezuela's been economically collapsing because everyone has been stealing their oil.
Yeah, this is very bad for China,
partnership
for sure.
with the United States, we are selling their crude at full market prices, bringing that money back to Venezuela to benefit of Venezuelan society so they can stamp out the criminality, the gangs, and displace our adversaries out of their country and start a future of cooperation together that'll win for the American people and that'll win for the people of Venezuela. Tell me what's wrong with this genius idea.
Look, and I'm only half kidding, well, sort of half kidding with regard to the whole petrodollar comment, but I mean, because like Venezuela, I believe they're getting the lion's share of any profits that are going to be generated from Venezuelan oil. It's not like we're just going to keep every single dollar of it. I don't think that they've ironed out the details yet. I'm sure I'll come across that once they do. All right, so this comes from Senator Mark Kelly. I've got a few Democrat posts, a couple that I actually kind of agree with. So Probably not this one, though. So anyway, he says, America is the greatest democracy because we stand up for each other's rights. That's why I sued PDXF to defend my rights and the rights of service members, veterans, and every American. So let's see what he has to say.
250 years, we have been the greatest democracy the world has ever seen because patriotic Americans
to the flag
have been willing to stand up
of the United States of
for
America.
Not just their own rights,
and to this democracy,
but for the rights of all of our fellow citizens. That continued resolve is what will decide if our democracy lasts another 250 years. That's why today,
why can't you say republic?
I filed a lawsuit
constitutional
against
republic?
the Secretary of Defense to protect
their
my
brains
rights,
are broken.
the rights of retired veterans, and the rights of all Americans. I've never backed down from a fight for our country, and I'm not going to back down from this one.
Well, was there a point to this? Evidently not. Okay, so anyway, that happened. I guess we can't get that minute back. All right, Mark Warner, Senator Schumer just attempted to again pass bipartisan House-passed legislation to extend Affordable Care Act tax credits and lower costs for millions. Senate Republicans blocked it. They are purposefully spiking costs for millions of Americans, but we will stay in the fight. No, we're not. We're just allowing the American people just to see how expensive Obamacare truly is. Because if you don't have those subsidies in place, then that's exactly what it is. People are paying the actual cost for the health care that is Obamacare. U.S. Senate Democrats floor updates. Senator Schumer asked unanimous consent that when the Senate receives H.R. 1834 ACA extension as passed by the House on January 8, 2026, the Senate consider and pass it. Senator Mike Crapo, Republican of Idaho, objected. Uh-oh. All right. So we're going to move on to this one. Senator Brian Schatz, whatever. This is why the Trump administration is creating shortages. Hear it. Take a listen. It's not too long.
Struggle to pay their electricity bills.
Guess it's not too long.
1 in 4 Americans.
Drill, baby,
What's
drill.
Trump doing about it? Well, it is definitely worse than nothing. Normally, the criticism about Biden during the inflation crisis was that he wasn't doing enough about inflation. But this is a different criticism. This is deliberate policy choices to drive up the cost of
tell
something
us
that everybody
specifics.
needs. And by the way,
which he won't.
That's also true for food and health insurance.
Okay, tell us how.
And electricity. All the stuff
give us the details.
He's creating a shortage of. Why?
How so?
Because
no, not why. How?
Shortages,
give a shit about
people
why.
People have to petition the king for mercy. And that's what's going on right now. If you are close to him,
we're not going to get these 2 minutes back either.
Dinner with him at Mar-a-Lago, you can get relief.
Why do I do this to myself?
There's enough money in the system for lots of people to get wealthy. But there's not enough money for a regular person living in Kaimuki and Honolulu, paying already 3 or 4 times the average electricity rate, paying more and more and more because they're...
dude, because you're on an island in the dead center of the Pacific Ocean, you moron.
There's a national
of course electricity is expensive.
Driven by the President of the United States to create a shortage of electrons. Because he decided...
A shortage of electrons?
That climate action is against his interests. And I think if we're going to move forward...
they're using climate change to make electricity somehow.
If we're going to move forward more generally on the question of affordability, we have to say shortages are bad for prices. When there's not enough of something, people charge too much. And right now we need as many electrons on the grid as we can possibly get, which means we need interstate transmission.
All the way across the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, that makes sense.
To not just permit new projects, but at a minimum, to let the projects that have been almost totally built to be plugged into the grid.
Yeah, so in, I don't know, the case with Hawaii, how much solar, how much wind that they have in Hawaii, but once all of that infrastructure, because it does age, and it does eventually fall apart, and it does need to be maintained constantly. And of course, if you have to have a battery system, it becomes wildly unaffordable. If they use battery backup, which I'm sure they're going to have to if they're wind and solar exclusively, you have to back that up because sometimes the wind doesn't blow. There's at least, for most of us, around half the day, the sun ain't shining. So you're going to have to use battery backups, which already will drive up the cost of electricity 3-4 times more expensive than it already costs. But And plus, what are they going to do with all these solar panels once they're rendered useless after so many years? And the wind turbines, especially the wind turbines, like they only function for like what, 5 years, and they have to tear them down and put up new ones. I mean, Hawaii, they've only got so much space. What are they going to do with it? I guess you probably could just take it all and just chuck it into the volcano. I mean, maybe that would be a solution, but of course they won't do that because, climate change, dude. Climate change, man. Oh, shit. I accidentally clicked the wrong button. All right. Anyway, so this is from Nanette D. Barragan. Today, I asked FCC Chairman Carr a simple yes or no question. Do consumers deserve to know before they sign up if they'll be hit with expensive early cancellation fees, often totaling hundreds of dollars? It's a simple question. He refused to say yes or no. I'm fighting to make sure families aren't blindsided by hidden costs and locked into contracts they can't afford. Consumers deserve transparency and straight answers, not surprises on their bills. Well, actually, that's one of the rare occasions that I actually agree with the Democrat. I think that really should be the case. Although, you could also make the argument that this is exactly the reason why you got to read everything before you sign it. But yeah, these early cancellation fees, like perforating equipment and stuff like that. Like there's reasons why certain cancellation fees might cost a lot. If you for example, if you get a phone from Verizon or whoever, and you get a $2,000 iPhone and you cancel your phone plan after 6 months, but you perforated your phone across 2 years, well, you're going to be hit with the big cancellation bill because you have to pay for the rest of the phone. But yeah, but that's probably not what she's talking about specifically. Probably talking about just in general cancellation fees. Well, it's going to cost you like $700 to cancel early because, that's the penalty for canceling your contract. But anyway, let's hear what she has to say.
You have said that you think the agency should focus on information that consumers want and need. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you have also said they should have information so they can make an informed decision. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I want to show you one of these. You know what this is, I'm sure.
Oh
right?
yeah, we all can't stand this
nutrition
shit.
label, the broadband label. Okay, one of the pieces
Long
of this
list of
label
fees.
is an early termination fee on whether there is one or not. Do you see? It's down here. I don't know if you could see it from where you're at.
Yeah, well, okay, so I get where she's going. I get what she's saying. Early termination fee, $750. Does that? I'm assuming that's probably a California level issue happening there, because I don't think it's going to cost $750 in every state. But maybe I'm wrong.
But certainly you.
But I got a feeling this is a California problem.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that consumers should know if there's going to be an early termination fee on a plan that they're signing up for?
What we're focused on is making sure that consumers have clear, concise.
Do you think that a consumer should know that there's going to be a cancellation fee? It's very simple.
This is an issue that we're looking at right now. What we want to reach is a point at which
dude,
have all
like,
of the
why not just say yes?
You don't have an opinion on whether a consumer should know if there's going to be an early termination fee? That's shocking, Commissioner Carr. Let me tell you why. This company, too, has an early termination fee up to $750.
Well, wait a minute. Since you're talking about transparency and everything, why not tell us what the company is? Why don't you tell us what company it is? Is it like California Broadcasting Corporation or something?
Depending on the device and the contract. So to have the chair of the committee of this agency not have an opinion on whether consumers should have informed information on a cancellation, you just confirmed to me. I'm not. There is no question pending, sir. There's no question pending. You just told me the consumer should have the information to make an informed decision. I can tell you in my congressional district, where people are working class and they're low income, they're going to want to know if there's an early termination fee. And they're certainly going to want to know if there's a $750 early termination fee.
Well, to be fair, I think we're all well aware that when you sign up for a 2-year contract, I think it's common knowledge at this point that we all know that there's going to be an early termination fee. Now, however, most of us probably don't know exactly what that fee is going to be. But yeah, like I said, that's, maybe that might be a state level problem, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that is. I mean, certainly that's something the federal government could regulate, which, I don't know. Anyway, speak out for God's sakes. What is Congress doing? And, that's it. So this didn't get much attention. Only got 12 likes, but I came across it and figured I might just throw that in here. This one's from Senator Dick Durbin. I'm on the Senate floor to call for a constitutional amendment that would overturn the Citizens United decision, which has allowed American politics to be flooded with dark money. I mean, that sounds extremely vague. If it is what I think that it is, I don't see why this would be an objectionable issue to stand on. I mean, yeah, American politics getting flooded with dark money. Yeah, that's something I think that the average American citizen would be perfectly fine with. But why don't you ban lobbying while you're at it? I mean, I think that's also something people would be on board with.
He was a great guy. Ran for president. He was the source of more jokes and comedy.
But ironically, I don't think that Democrats would quite be on board with this.
And he used to say, if you have politics in your bloodstream, only embalming fluid will replace it. I'm living proof that he was right. In 1982, I decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives for the first time. This was after I lost 3 straight elections. My wife said this is my last.
Yeah, well, dude, you're a classic case of why there should be term limits. Being in Congress since 1982 is ridiculous, which I guess, to be fair, it's the people who keep voting for his ass.
So I took on an incumbent in 1982 for the U.S. House of Representatives. He'd been in that seat for 22 years.
Way too long.
But because of the quirky law in Illinois, the Democrats got to draw the map. So I got a map against the Republican incumbent, which is 40% new territory. I had a chance. And 82 was a big year for Democrats.
So they gerrymandered.
I remember.
That's what you're saying, right?
I still remember my fear. When I raised enough money to be a viable candidate, nobody knew for sure.
As long as you played the Democrat
ball,
ball,
the average cost of a congressional campaign
will let you in.
1982
you got the Democrats' blessing.
$215,000 for a campaign to run for the U.S. House. I raised and spent, as did my.
Okay, dude, where's the point, man? I don't care about your friggin' history lesson.
When it came to cryptocurrency. And so they spent $40 million to defeat one of our colleagues here in the Senate, and they succeeded. That's the kind of thing that happens now. $40 million. That's more than a good day raising money for most candidates. But that's the reality of what we face. This decision that we face
There's no way this
today,
dude knows the first thing about cryptocurrency.
Was mindless. To say that a business has the same rights as individuals under the Constitution is a mindless conclusion. And it's no surprise. If I'm not mistaken, I'll double check. If I'm not mistaken, not a single Supreme Court justice who ruled in that case had ever stood for office, ever had a fundraiser, ever had to go through it and understand what it does to you. I think ethical reform that's meaningful requires a scandal that is earth-shattering. I'm not sure what's left by way of scandal. What's going on with corruption in this business has become almost routine. And I'm sorry to say that because so many people on both sides of the aisle are good, honest people who are public service trying to do their best. But this Citizens United decision and where we are in politics today has changed this business so much, I'm not sure we can ever reclaim the kind of idealism that we all aspire to be public servants in this institution. I thank you for drawing us to the floor today.
All right, whatever. I'll repost it because I might have skipped some of the point that he was getting at. Didn't mean to click on that. All right, where did it go? Okay, yeah, here it is. So I'll repost that and we'll just move on from here. Secretary Kristi Noem, I'm glad to announce a $200 million investment to rebuild shore facilities at Coast Guard Station South Padre Island. When fire tore through Station South Padre Island's boathouse last April, the crew responded bravely. They didn't stop. They immediately went back to work the next day, resuming their patrols and interdicting illegal fishermen in a dangerous environment along the southern border. Through this investment and numerous others funded by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we are investing in our U.S. Coast Guard heroes and providing them with the facilities they need to secure our borders from criminal organizations and narco-terrorists. The men and women of the Coast Guard are relentless in their resolve to defend America. By rebuilding Station South Padre Island, we're empowering the crew there to continue their courageous work and make America safe again. I didn't even know that there was a fire that broke out here, but here's the images. And I don't know if they ever got to the bottom of what caused it. I'm sure they did. But yeah, so $200 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot. I mean, are they sure they can't get it built for less than that? Sounds like an awful lot of money. All right, so from the Associated Press, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says that Elon Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot Grok will join Google's generative AI engine in operating inside the Pentagon network. Interesting.
Thank you, Elon. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Today, we're excited to announce the next frontier AI model company to join GenAI.mil, and that is Grok from xAI, which will go live later this month. Very soon, we will have the world's leading AI models on every unclassified and classified network throughout our department. Long overdue. And we will not employ AI models that won't allow you to fight wars. We will judge AI models on this standard alone. Factually accurate, mission relevant, without ideological constraints that limit lawful military applications. Department of War AI will not be woke. It will work for us.
Yeah, but the AI,
We're
though,
building war-ready weapons and systems, not
they tend to be kind of
chatbots
biased
for an Ivy League faculty lounge.
I'm not saying that they're completely biased, but they can only be as biased as those who created them. Okay, and speaking of AI, I've got something coming up here in a minute that I'm going to mention, kind of a bombshell of sorts, especially in the investment sector. U.S. National Archives. On this day in 1784, the Continental Congress ratified the Treaty of Paris. True crucial provisions of the treaty were British recognition of U.S. independence and the delineation of boundaries that would allow for American Western expansion. And there's an image there. Article 10th, as it's written. But anyway, here's the thread emoji, so there's going to be more down here. Signed on September 3rd, 1783 by founding fathers John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay, the Treaty of Paris formally ended the Revolutionary War. The U.S. and British representatives signed at least 3 originals, 2 of which are in the holdings of the National Archives. Learn more about the Treaty of Paris at archives.gov/milestone/so on and so forth. So I will have that linked. And let's get back to the list here. Pretty cool. And yeah, so again, that was on this day. Yeah, that happened today. Many years ago. From the CDC, salmonella outbreak. 45 people are sick in 21 states with 12 hospitalizations. Do not eat Live It Up Super Green supplement powders. See the notice for full details. And I will have that. Actually, let me scooch that over. So here's the image of the Live It Up. Yeah, so the Super Greens packets, supplemental powders. Do not eat recalled Live It Up Super Green supplement powders. These products were sold nationwide. And it's going to be on cdc.gov. And it's, the salmonella outbreak is linked to these greens supplement powders. CDC and public health officials in several states are investigating a multi-state outbreak of salmonella infections linked to Live It Up Super Green supplement powder. If you have any of these recalled products in your home, throw them out or return them to the store. And they were sold nationwide. Certain lots, batches of Live It Up Super Green supplement powders, including the original and wild berry flavors. Expiration dates from August of 26 to January of 2028. On January 14th, 2026, the company informed FDA that they would initiate a voluntary recall. And of course, what you should do, don't eat them. Wash items and surfaces that may have touched the recalled Super Green supplement powders using hot soapy water or a dishwasher. Call a healthcare provider if you have any of these severe salmonella symptoms. And there's the list of the symptoms. And yeah, so there you go. And let's see what we got next here. Let's see if I got what I'm... Nope. Okay, so this is from NHTSA Gov, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Big news for Florida road safety. Tampa Fire Rescue, that's in my neck of the woods, just secured a $1.4 million federal grant to launch a pre-hospital blood transfusion program. Only 2% of EMS agencies nationwide can do this, but it can reduce trauma deaths by up to 37%. This is a game changer for saving lives at the scene. I can't believe that they haven't done that, and I never even thought of it. Yeah, I don't believe that they do on-site blood transfusions for, like, let's say, gunshot victims or what have you. And I could imagine that would save a lot of people's lives. So definitely very good news for Tampa and the other 2% of the country that already does on-site blood transfusions or on-scene blood transfusions. So the NHTSA awarded the City of Tampa Fire Rescue $1.4 million to launch a pre-hospital blood transfusion program, allowing paramedics to give trauma patients blood at the scene or en route to the hospital. The NHTSA doled out $50 million in grants to 25 communities nationwide chosen for this federal initiative aimed at reducing traffic deaths. Tampa was the only community in Florida selected for the program. And let's see, data showed severe blood loss is the leading cause of preventable death in trauma cases. Nearly half of patients who suffer major traumatic injuries die before they ever reach a hospital. It can be frustrating knowing that someone was just one step away from being salvageable or just having better outcomes, said Dr. Andrew Thomas, an ER physician with Tampa General Hospital and USF Health. I know exactly where that's at. Data showed that giving blood to trauma patients in the field can reduce deaths by up to 37%. This is very orchestrated care, Thomas said. You have a lot of people working together toward one goal. NHTSA Administrator Jonathan Morrison said the program is modeled after trauma care techniques developed during U.S. military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, where early blood transfusions dramatically improve survival rates. We are facing an ongoing crisis in traffic fatalities. Yeah. Here, hold on. Let me read this first. Every year we have about 40,000 fatalities on our roads, but we're trying to make efforts to really bring these numbers down. One of the more creative approaches to bringing those numbers down is focusing on post-crash care. No, what they really should be doing to bring down these numbers is get rid of these effing infotainment systems and all this touchscreen bullshit that they've got in all these new cars now, because it distracts people. And I actually just read this, I think it was even probably today or yesterday, that that those who are driving a Tesla that have to navigate on their touchscreen, whether if they have to work on like the temperature control or music or like navigation with their map, that every time that they focus on this touchscreen, that they're on average they are distracted from the road for almost an entire mile at a time, which is insane. And I remember, like, when you're texting and driving, remember how those commercials that were out like 10, 15 years ago where they said that that's equivalent to having like a 0.13 blood alcohol level. So you're essentially driving drunk every time that you look at your phone for texting. And I think that's one thing that they could do to bring down fatalities on the roads. And another thing I think, which would be a lot more controversial, would be to get rid of automatic transmissions. Everybody's got to drive a manual, because if you drive a manual, both of your hands have to be working and both of your feet have to be working. All four of your limbs have to be constantly operating the vehicle, especially in city traffic. And it makes you more in tune with the vehicle you're driving, and it makes you more aware of your surroundings, because it's a lot harder to get distracted when you have to shift gears all the time. So anyway, so that's happening. At least the blood transfusion thing, at least that's getting off the ground. Even though, like they said, back in Iraq and Afghanistan. So this has been something they've been working on for a long time. All right, healthcare.gov. Tomorrow is the last day to enroll in a 2026 health insurance plan. All plans cover 10 essential health benefits, including mental health services, prescriptions, emergency care, and more. Don't miss the deadline. Enroll today at healthcare.gov. Get enrolled in Obamacare. You only got 1 day left to enroll. All right. I came across it. I just figured, why not show it? I thought it was kind of funny. All right, Federal Transit Administration, Ride KC Transit recently launched a new bus route that will link Kansas City, Kansas to Kansas City, Missouri for the first time in a century, bringing travelers across state lines more efficiently and easily. How cool is that? So if you live in Kansas City, Missouri or Kansas City, Kansas, now you got public transportation between the two cities for the first time in 100 years. All right, so this is what I was looking at in the investment area. Breaking, silver prices surge above $93 per ounce for the first time in history, up 30% so far for 2026. The asset owner rally we are witnessing right now is unprecedented. Take a look at this, man. So this is the value of silver. And going back to 2023, 2024, so it was like, what, like 17, 18 bucks, or like roughly around $20, $25 in 23, 24, 25, it jumped up to $30, $35. And then, and by the end of 2025, it skyrocketed from like $35 all the way up to $93. And I don't know if it's going to keep going up. I imagine that it's going to, because in my opinion, it's because the AI infrastructure that they're building out right now. Because when you build electronics, computer components, it demands silver, because silver is the highest conductive metal on the periodic table. So it's certainly in demand when they're building computers and electronic components, things like AI infrastructure. So I would fully anticipate the value of silver to just go up probably a lot more dramatically than this. But this is dramatic. I couldn't believe that when I saw this. Last time I looked at silver, it was like $60. And that was blowing me away, because the previous record was like 50, which was set, I think, like in 2011 or somewhere around there. So yeah, man, silver is exploding in value. I'm no expert. I'm no financial advisor or anything like that. I'm not saying to go out and buy a bunch of silver. I'm just saying, I guess at least a year ago, if not several years ago, if you bought silver back then, well, you're looking quite pretty right now, man. It's a hell of a good investment, or turned out to be a good one. The poor man's investment. That's what they used to call silver, the poor man's investment. Well, now it's turned out to be a hell of a good one. All right, so anyway, NASA Artemis, no spacecraft required. Time is running out to submit your name to be flown aboard the Artemis 2 mission. Be sure to submit before January 21st in order to be included. Grab your boarding pass and join the mission around the moon. And I signed up for this, and so did my daughter. We both signed up to do this, which I think is really cool. You could send your name around the moon, and you just simply fill out this field. You put your first name, your last name, and then you just create just a random PIN code. You could use, just use a PIN code. You use like, I don't know, like your phone number or something like that. Just something basic. It doesn't really matter. It's, but yeah, you just simply put in your first name, your last name, and what it does, here, I'll read it here. The submitted names will be included on an SD card that will fly inside Orion when the Artemis 2 mission launches in 2026. Stay tuned for the latest mission updates, including information about the launch at nasa.gov. So yeah, they're gonna take all these names. I think it's over 1 million at this point. Where's the number? Well, they had the number on the mobile version of this page. It was like 1.2 million people have already signed up for this. And they're going to download every person's name and their PIN number who put in their information. They're going to download it onto a flash drive, and they're going to put the flash drive onto the Orion spacecraft, and they're going to send it around the moon. It's NASA's way of giving back to, essentially, I guess, they say it's a way to give back to the world for supporting the endeavors of NASA, but it's also a way to give back to the taxpayers for all the money that we've spent. It's just, something nice to do. It's just a little flash drive. I'm sure it probably doesn't weigh more than a couple grams, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. If you put in your name, it'll give you an image of a boarding pass, which you could download as a PDF document. It also includes a QR code. So when the Artemis 2 mission does launch and it goes up into space, you can snap that QR code, and it'll take you to a page where it'll show you exactly where the spacecraft is. And it seems fun. It seems like something fun to do, especially if you have kids. I think that's pretty cool. You're literally sending your name up to the moon, which is cool. Artemis 3 mission, if they do the same thing, then they'll be setting your name on the moon. If they do that next time, which I'm sure they will, man. They got over 1 million people that signed up for it. All right, it looks like I'm going to finish up with this from NASA Live. What is this? Xenonaut, Xena Cardman, who's an astronaut with NASA, and Astro Iron Mike, the pilot for SpaceX Dragon on Crew 11, and their fellow Crew 11 members have said their goodbyes, and the SpaceX Dragon hatch is closed. Now watch as they undock from the space station. And they had to cut the mission very early. They were supposed to be up there in the space station for like 7 months or 8 months, and they just got up there right around Thanksgiving. I think they were up there they docked with the space station just a few days before Thanksgiving. And now they already have to return because one of the astronauts, they came down with some, they described it not exactly a medical emergency, but a medical situation. So because of this medical situation, they had to send up the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft to dock with the space station, and they're coming home early. So let me just fast forward and see if I can find that part where they undock with the space station. So of course that is the space. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Well, here we go.
A 3-man crew for the next few weeks until Crew 12 arrives.
3 weeks before Crew 12, huh? I didn't know they were going to go up that soon. They probably pushed it up because of them having to disembark from the space station so early.
The interface between Dragon and the station has no longer been sealed.
Let me turn it up a little bit. Wow, look at that, man. Oh, never mind. I thought that was live. Like, holy shit, man. Good timing for the Northern Lights. What the hell? What's going on here? It's moving.
Away from physical separation.
Okay, here we go. Seconds away. Physical separation. So they might have already landed by now. Seconds away. I'm looking right here. I don't know if that's where I should be looking.
Dragon SpaceX, all hooks open. Turn on the SpaceX, all hooks.
Looks like this camera's on the Dragon. Yeah, here it goes. Disconnected.
Docking confirmed.
Undocking confirmed.
Endeavour begins its journey home with the Crew 11 crew.
Yes, it does.
Undocking confirmed.
Separation confirmed.
Looks like it's barely moving, right?
Confirmed.
But in fact, it's traveling at 17,500 miles an hour right there. Moving very fast, orbiting the Earth.
A good undocking burn, 4:20 p.m. Central Time, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time for undocking.
Yeah, here you go. There's the speed right there. Of course, I didn't even notice that. 26,423 kilometers an hour. That's how fast the Dragon's traveling right now. But wait, it doesn't look like it's even moving. Oh, they moving. Moving really quick.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Depart, burn 0 complete.
So we've had 3 good departure burns. The undocking burns 1 and 2, departure burn 0.
Now, of course, we're not going to see them land. We're not going to see them enter the atmosphere. It's probably going to take, I would imagine, it would probably take at least a day. It usually takes a couple days from the time they launch to the time they dock with the space station. It takes a while. It takes a while to get everything lined up just perfectly, especially when you're traveling over 17,000 miles an hour.
The accelerated nature of the timing of this undocking for Crew 11, the crew has executed everything by the book as they begin about a 10.5-hour journey to a splashdown off the coast of San Diego in the wee hours Thursday morning.
All right, there you go. About 10 hours. Thursday morning. Okay, so they're still up. They're still up in space right now, as of this video, this recording.
Houston Station on 2, ISS thrusters are enabled. Houston.
A long process. Oh, here we go. They're inside the cabin. That's cool. Looks very different from the days of Apollo. When they had, remember seeing Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, and they had all those, they had like 1,000 buttons all over the place. Buttons and knobs and switches. Now it's all flat screens. And I believe the Dragon spacecraft is fully automated too. I think it's all remotely or automatically controlled. Yeah, the view of the Earth.
This time, you are go to dock suits per procedure 4.012. Reminder that ground will be deactivating the big loop following exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Teams again that we have exited that keep out sphere. And now we're waiting for Dragon to exit the approach ellipsoid, or AE for short, which is another imaginary shape. This time a 3-dimensional ellipsoid, kind of a football shape, measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in the same family as that keep out sphere. One of the key differences with the AE, though, is that vehicles outside of it have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. Instead of the 4 orbits we mentioned earlier, that means that a spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours again, even if it lost all maneuvering for that call-out, once we hear confirmation that Dragon is outside of the AE. So to recap what brought us to today, the hatches between the International
they don't want to hit the
Space Station
boosters and
Dragon were closed
throw the
earlier
space station
today
off
at
orbit.
Approximately 2.
Oh, comms check. That's what it sounded like. All right. Well, anyway, I don't want to keep on with that. I mean, that's really the whole point, was that they were undocking with the space station. So looks like I will just go ahead and cut it there. And looks like that's going to do it for this episode. So if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll drop a new show tomorrow evening as I do the swamp Monday through Friday, and covering the swamp and everyone in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, the agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily on X, so feel free to comment there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.